Well, hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Today we'll dive into a very exciting topic, the Brennan Hall Group AI and HR Progression Model for Empowering HR Excellence. This session is eligible for HRCI, SHRM, and ATD Professional Development credits. Now let's meet today's speakers. We have David Forry, SVP of Brennan Hall Group, and Mike Cooke, the CEO of Brennan Hall Group. Now, before we dive into today's content, let me tell you about Brennan Hall Group and some incredible opportunities that could accelerate your career. Brennan Hall Group is a leading professional development firm that has been serving learning, talent, and HR executives worldwide for more than 30 years. We've advanced the growth and performance of millions of employees and leaders through our cloud-based platform, delivering evidence-based research, data, and certification programs that empower organizations to achieve excellence in every area of human capital management. Our impact spans more than 10 million employees and executives globally, supported by our comprehensive research library, strategic insights, and prestigious awards program. Below is a sample of the organizations we are proud to partner with. We have incredible learning and networking opportunities, our two BRIC events happening this year, our AI Summit on October 15th, and our Leadership Summit on November 17th and 18th. And don't forget to save the date for next year's 2027 HCM Excellence Conference happening January 26th through the 28th. All details for everything I've mentioned will be available in the PDF you'll receive within 24 hours after this webinar. Based off everything I just went over, I would like to know what you would like to learn more about. Is it our Eminence program, our 2027 HCM Excellence Conference? Maybe it's one of our BRIC events or our awards program.
I know many of the people on this particular webcast are part of our Eminence programs, but if you were forwarded an invite by one of your colleagues and don't have access to the Institute platform, please mark that off as well. Let us know in the chat. We'd be happy to get you access and engage with you that way as well.
Thank you, David. All right. Now, just a few quick things to note. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions panel on your control bar. We'll be answering them throughout the session. We're also recording today's webinar, and you'll receive an email within 24 hours with a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides. The chat box is open, so feel free to share your thoughts as we go along. Your input makes this more valuable for everyone. One last thing, we are excited to share that at the end of today's webinar, we will be selecting one lucky raffle winner to win a complimentary Excellence in Action program submission. Stay tuned to see if you're the lucky winner. You must be present to win. Now I would like to pass things off to David.
Well, hello everyone and good morning. I am David Forry, as Ivy said, Senior Vice President at Brennan Hall Group. I am actually currently out in LA at the ATD conference. After this wraps up, I'm going to be heading over to the Convention Center to meet some wonderful people. If any of your colleagues are there, please let them know. I'd love to connect with them, see them in person. Typically, my background looks exactly like our virtual backgrounds. That is our brick building behind Mike and I. If you can see our little squares, the Boca Raton Innovation Campus that Ivy mentioned we have our summits at. So that is a real picture outside of our window, but I'm very thankful for virtual backgrounds today. And Mike, sorry I wasn't in the office with you to do this webinar live. So today, this is where we're heading. We're going to start with the current state of AI in HR and explain the AI progression model. Then we'll spend some time discussing what actually drives success once organizations move beyond experimentation into operational AI. And we'll cover some critical success factors we constantly see across high-performing organizations that we talk through, as well as walk through some transition roadmaps between the phases, and then close with practical next steps that you can actually apply. And of course, most of the people on here are members. We'd love to connect with you if you need any additional help, support, and guidance.
This model was built using research from nearly 1,000 organizations. And an important distinction about this is we intentionally avoided calling this a maturity model. We believe that AI adoption is too uneven for that at this point in time. So you can have one part of a company deploying advanced AI workflows while another team is still trying to understand what Gen AI actually is. So instead, we focused on readiness. So the model is designed to really help organizations understand where they are today and what capabilities are required to move forward successfully.
Before we launch that poll, can we go back one more slide? So if everybody can, take the time to look this over, that next poll, we're actually going to ask you where you are. So if you can internalize that a little bit, figure out where you think you are, and then we'll have a conversation today about some really practical steps of how to identify where you are, how to get to the next phase. But if you look through, of course, you have the AI readiness, which is at the top, an easy way to understand where you are at. But we looked at the people, the process, the technology. Anytime we talk about HR operating models, HR technology, we always look at those three areas. But then we had to factor in the organizational state as well as the governance state, because the organization might not be ready for where you're heading from an AI standpoint. And then, of course, the governance is very important. We'll get to more of that later. So hopefully by now you have had the time to look this over a little bit. So Ivy, if we could go ahead and launch that next poll. So if you can tell us where you think your organization is, just your best estimation, phase one, phase two. Then phase three is defined and strategic, four, managed and transformational, and then phase five, optimized HR excellence. So as we wait for this poll to wrap, we have a lot of conversations with our members and prospects that are looking for help in this area. And we launched this AI progression model a little less than a year ago, and it's really transformed over time. I think a lot of people have gotten more used to having these conversations and a better understanding of where they need to go. So if you've taken this poll in the past, it's certainly new, and you probably have moved. So would love to hear from anybody in the chat as well. If you've participated in this poll question in the past, if you think you've changed, and if you can also let us know how far, or if you took that 6 months ago, say, yeah, we moved up one phase, or, I took it a year ago, we've actually moved up two phases. Would love to hear that type of comments in the chat as well. So Ivy, can we share this one with everyone? I'm not seeing oh, perfect.
Interesting.
So phase one, we have 40% of people in that phase one, which is reactive, ad hoc. Maybe you're piloting some programs, or maybe you're just using it on your own. So that is something that we certainly hear a lot of people are in. That standardization, really starting to figure out how you can move from pilots to rolling out elsewhere. Defined and strategic, that's where you are actually getting some real outcomes. You're starting to move it across the organization. Managed and transformational, we see 7% there, and another 7% in phase five, which is you've set up AI to go across the organization, set up proper guardrails to control it, but for the most part, it acts a little bit on its own. All right, perfect.
So let's break down what each phase actually looks like and build a little bit more on what David was saying. So phase one, which many of you selected, is really reactive. This is where we believe organizations are operating in crisis mode. There's inconsistent experimentation, sometimes spreadsheet dependency, minimal governance, high error rates. Phase two introduces more structured pilots, but teams are at this point experimenting in more of an intentional manner, right? We start to see AI literacy begin to develop. And we also see companies, they start to lean on more external vendors as well as providers for capability support. All right, phase three is where we start to see some levels of breakthrough. So this is where AI is becoming more aligned with the business strategically. And oftentimes we'll see companies in this phase consistently report dramatically higher project success rates, because we're seeing governance and leadership alignment and operational integration finally start to come together. Phase four, you start to see more agentic workflows. So this is where you start to see AI executing processes at scale, while humans, employees, remain actively involved for validation as well as for oversight. And then phase five, which some of you actually answered, is really optimized AI operations. So autonomous systems are becoming operationally trusted, processes are becoming highly automated, and organizations are emerging as industry leaders in AI-enabled operations.
Yeah, and on this slide, Mike, we see some critical mistakes that happen when people try to jump phases a little too quickly. Where maybe they go to a conference and or they hear somebody like us speak and they think that you need to advance the ball quicker. A lot of times that's where people start to make mistakes, often around governance, not setting up proper guardrails, those types of things. So one thing that I can certainly recommend to you all is, understanding what phase you're in, but also how do you get to the next level. So we talk a little bit about that a little further, but there are some actual critical success factors that we saw across all five phases, no matter where you are. And that's, of course, first setting up your executive sponsorship. And that's not just executive interest, that's actual commitment, budget, leadership attention, operational support. There's a lot that goes into executive sponsorship. The second is probably one of the things that we talk about most is clean data. So garbage in, garbage out. AI amplifies whatever quality of data you already have. One thing I will tell you is don't wait. You can, of course, clean as you go, but just understand if you're going to point any type of generative AI at your data, it's just going to amplify that more. It's going to scale your problems rather than fix them. So be conscious of that. The third is organizational-wide AI literacy. So this can't stay isolated. This is one of the areas that most organizations started looking at last year. And if they haven't, that's probably their goal for 2027 is really, sorry, 2026, really helping their organization with AI literacy, understanding how to use it properly, what it can do, how it can support us on our day-to-day job. And that's going to look different at actually every phase based on your maturity. The fourth is comprehensive governance, very critical. That's going to look at your ethics, your compliance, especially in high compliance organizations, risk management, and operational standards. All a little different based on your organization, your industry that you're in, and how you're using that data. And the fifth is, use proven pilots. So no matter which phase you're in, focus on those successes. And step one might be, if you're still in phase one and phase two, which we saw a lot of the people on this call are, is picking the right pilots, actually. Making sure you're not just chasing that shiny object, but you're actually looking for use cases. So if AI is a way that you can actually accomplish an operational need, then you can measure that, then you can get buy-in back from that, step one, the executive sponsorship to show that you have measurable ROI, and then get that pushed out. One critical mistake we saw in 2025 and 2024 was people were using AI just to use AI. A lot of times we were told to do that, of course, but then we couldn't quite track measurable difference. So we weren't able to get funding for bigger projects that actually would have had more impact on the organization. So that's one critical mistake that we saw. But it is something that at every phase that you go through, to keep that in mind, that you're measuring your engagement. So let's go and do another poll.
Yeah, let's do a quick pulse check here. So I'm really curious to see where your organization's primarily focused right now. Are you experimenting with pilots and use cases, scaling AI across HR functions, or embedding AI into a broader operational strategy? Just take a moment and submit your answer. Really curious to see where your energy is focused. And if you can, Ivy, after everybody votes, we can show the results. Okay.
That
Interesting.
certainly tracks with the
Yeah.
first poll that we did, Mike.
Yeah, it does.
Seeing everyone in phase 1 and phase 2, that certainly tracks.
Yeah, completely. Interesting. Okay.
And I
Great.
would love to hear those couple of people that were in embedding AI. I would love to see some comments in the chat if you are willing to share what you're doing, and we'd love to kind of double click on that. Okay, let's do a little bit of a scenario. Would love to get some comments in the chat. And by the way, next time we do this webinar, we're actually going to do a Microsoft Teams meeting where we can talk live and do some breakout groups. But for today's webinar, we're just going to look into the chat function and work on a real world scenario. So your organization's launched several AI pilots. Some are working, some are not. There's different teams using different tools. There's no clear ownership. Data is very inconsistent, and leadership is beginning to question the ROI. So drop into the chat 3 actions that you would consider to take next, or 1 action if you only have time to type in 1. So this might be a good time to pause and mention that the last couple of times that we ran over the AI progression model, we were actually live in the room. We had our AI summit, which we have coming back in October. So hopefully we can see you all there. In October in Boca Raton, that picture that you saw in Mike and I's background, that is our Boca Raton Innovation Campus. We also did it at our HCM Excellence Conference on day 3, where we ran an AI workshop on the final day of the conference. So hopefully we get to see you all there. So I do see a couple of chats starting to come in. Julie, thank you. Good to see your name again. We have been creating peer-to-peer mentoring initiatives on AI adoption and resiliency with change agent networks for their clients. So that's wonderful initiative to help each other learn and adapt AI. John, thank you for your comment. We got proper training on the AI tools. That's a great call out. Going back to some of those critical success factors that I talked about, making sure there's AI literacy. So if you're seeing different teams using different tools, there is no clear ownership and consistent across systems. Great area to start is on that AI literacy. Sergio actually came in right when I was talking as well, saying standing AI literacy meetings and updates to the team. Wonderful. Robert, work on organizational AI policy, AI basic training for everyone, advanced AI training for key AI leaders and key teams to discuss AI developments. So that is actually also a great and comment there, Robert, adding in the advanced training for key AI leaders. We always see when you do have some leaders within the organizations applying AI and then getting some really great use cases, being able to show how they're utilizing that within their organization, making sure their pilots that they're running are supported, and you can track that back to ROI and share that with the organization. That always changes the narrative. So what we typically see here is organizations realizing they scaled experimentation faster than they were able to scale their governance and operational alignment. And Haley actually just commented in around alignment as well. AI fundamentals and ethics training, governance meetings, consolidate tools, measurable business problems. That's great. And then consolidating tools, that's a great comment, Haley. With a lot of people using different AI platforms, being able to consolidate down to, even if it's just your team, utilizing the same teams, same tools. And if you're paying for subscriptions, of course, getting everyone on the same team, the same account, and being able to share information back and forth. I know we've done that within our organization as well, where we are all using different tools, and we continue to use different tools because they change, every week it seems. But having a couple of tools that we can all go back to and share information back and forth.
Mhm.
Even ChatGPT, I love starting something and then inviting Mike to my chat directly where he can add on to it, and then we can start to branch into different directions.
Right.
Just
And as a reminder for those of you who are part of our Eminence program and our clients, we also have a number of micro and standard courses and even AI certification courses part of Institute that you can also run through. So we'd love to have feedback from anyone that's taken those in the past. I know they're becoming more popular, especially the certification AI course. But definitely take a look if you haven't yet. So this slide is showing what progression really is, what is actually required between the phases. All right. So moving from phase one to phase two, you need to have some success during your pilot. So foundational AI literacy, what some folks were mentioning in the chat, initial data integration, strong vendor partnerships is really critical. Moving from phase two to phase three requires scaling your infrastructure. That includes integrated HR systems, analytics capability, and governance frameworks. Moving from three to four requires mature data management, organizational-wide AI literacy, and cross-functional integration. And then moving from phase four to five requires optimized operations, innovation culture, and a strategic ecosystem with your partnerships.
it's always interesting, Mike, when we are having these conversations with our clients that are trying to move from phase one to phase two. Um, One reality that we see that sinks in is it a lot of times takes longer to transition phases than you would expect. So the technology, obviously, AI is moving very quickly. Organizational change does not move at that speed, even when we're working with our tech and software clients.
Mhm.
Even they take longer to move from phase, two to phase three to phase four, etc. But what we do see is a lot of people's goals are probably in that phase three range. The majority of the people on this call are on the one and two side. So getting to phase three, where you're really seeing some quality and measurable results come out of it. And then, of course, you hear some of those early adopters getting to four and five as well. So let's talk a little bit about challenges. So a lot of people on this call we're in the phase one and phase two. So we're seeing very common challenges for those people, and a lot of times it's the data quality, and then the skill gaps. So not only the AI literacy programs can help close some of those skills gaps, but also understanding that balance of, well, we need to train the people on how to use it, but we also need to work on our data quality. So those are the two things that we're typically seeing. Those of you that were in phase one and phase two, would love to hear from you if that's accurate, or maybe you're wrestling with another challenge. Mike, I did like that you called out that a lot of people in phase two are leveraging their vendors, their technology companies for their AI, which is what a lot of people are doing. They're getting great usage out of their vendors, their technologies that have AI embedded, which is a wonderful start. A lot of good time savings there. But for the most part, you're not going to see that organizational change that you really want to see, and what your organization is probably pushing you to see. That's going to be more in that phase three, where you're actually using AI within your organization. So the phase two and phase three challenges that we're seeing is the inconsistent governance. That's probably one of the things that people are probably trying to set up a little bit more in phase two, that governance and ways that they can scale those pilots that they saw success with in phase two, getting into phase three. Phase three challenges is balancing that governance with agility and innovation. So the interesting thing about governance, we like to compare it to when the caveman discovered fire. Fire was wonderful, because it could do things like cook your food, heat your home, give you light at night. But at the same time, fire can also burn your house down. And it's very similar to AI, where it's going to provide a lot of innovation for you. But if not controlled properly, it can certainly hurt things much more than it can help. And we see that in the news where an organization just 2 weeks ago deleted their entire CRM system, all of their information about every client they have, deleted by AI. That's because they got to some of those advanced phases without the proper governance. So there is some triggers in there to delete old data or delete data that wasn't relevant, but it was entered wrong and there's no checks and balances. So AI went ahead and deleted their entire CRM system. This is a mega organization. You probably saw it in the news 2 weeks ago. It's definitely something that you have to consider. But once you get to that phase 3, phase 4, governance becomes much bigger impact on how you utilize AI. And then you have to balance that with the speed and innovation that's coming out. What's interesting actually is if you get to phase 5, governance is actually the thing that you enjoy the most, because governance is going to help set up the proper guardrails for AI to operate successfully, so you don't get into that problem of all of your information getting deleted overnight. So then phase 4, phase 5, we're seeing organizations using humans oversight to make sure everything's going properly. So that is, of course, a challenge of, how much humans are participating in certain activities. That's conversations people talk about: human in the loop, human, controlling the loop, those types of things. That's where you're going to see the biggest challenges, is understanding what humans should be working on versus what we can offload to AI. And then universally, just governance, governance, governance. So make sure you invest in that properly for your future platforms as well.
Right. And the whole point of this is investing in governance early is going to really make sure that it prevents expensive future problems. That's the one lesson you can learn across each of these phases, certainly. So I think we have one more final pull. And what is the biggest barrier preventing advancement in your AI maturity? Curious to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Oh, wow. So 70% are saying lack of skills or AI literacy across the organization. That is certainly something that you want to start with. So data quality was not as high as I expected, which is a good thing. People must like the data that's coming in. But that AI skills and literacy is certainly something you need to address right away to train. There's lots of good examples of how to do that. As Mike said, if you are part of our Eminence and Institute platform, you can get in, you can see we have micro courses, we have standard courses, as well as full certifications that you can upskill yourself. And then you can also upskill your team as well with some of the tools and frameworks that are in there. And then we have 20% at the governance, risk, compliance concerns, certainly valid. Okay. So let's look at some practical frameworks that we can recommend, some real solutions. This is kind of set up as like a track, a circle, a map, because you do, once you get to step 5, hopefully going into the next phase, and you need to assess again. So the first thing you need to do is, of course, assess honestly, really understand where you are, focus on your actual current state, not your desired state. Be honest with yourself. So if you sit down later today and map that out, go through these 5 steps. I think it'll be, and jot down where you really think you are. I think it'll be extremely helpful exercise. Step 2, focus. Focus on one thing. Focus on something that you don't try to solve everything simultaneously. Advance one phase at a time. Really focus on how you can get to that next phase. Step 3, build the foundation. Don't skip the governance or the data quality checks. So write out, some areas that you think you can leverage your time best for doing this. Step 4, start small. Successful pilots, create momentum, confidence, as well as it's going to set you up for future funding as well. And of course, step 5, stay human centric. We are all in HR, so keep human resources human. AI should be the one that's going to enhance human judgment. It's not going to replace it. So we break out all 5 of these steps in our AI progression model. Make sure you head into your Institute platform to download the AI progression model. The workbook version, I think it's 120 pages. It has lots of different ways that you can support your team, go through each one of these steps, gives you the opportunity to journal just like I recommended. But it's going to help you go to each step. There's also shorter versions if you want to share it with your colleagues. There's our research summary and things like that on the AI progression model. So let's do another scenario, Mike.
All right, can't wait. Here's another scenario that we do see quite frequently. So an organization has early AI success. The entire company sees demand so that every function wants AI support. Teams stop building their own tools. Governance supposedly exists, but it's more on paper and is now being ignored. And the central AI team is becoming overwhelmed. So if you can, drop into the chat, what are the top 3 actions or even 1 action that you would prioritize? And this is where the operational discipline becomes critical in this scenario. So without structure, we know that organizations will create fragmentation, usually first, instead of scaling. But please, if you can, tell us what would be 1 or 2 actions that you would prioritize in this given situation.
Certainly something we see a lot of is that scale issue, Mike, where every team is doing something a little different, especially when we think about HR. I like to think of us as one big group, but in reality, there's some extreme silos. I know talent acquisition is probably one that got AI first, more on the machine learning, resume parsing, and they have some really cool tools out there like AI interviewing. Learning creation got some great tools with things like AI avatars, 5 years ago, and being able to use some of that. But down to creation, a lot of people have experimented with creating learning content. And then there's somewhere in the middle that the rest of the HR community are still trying to figure out. But we're getting some really good innovations out of people that are advancing through their phases and really starting to scale within their organization, seeing some operational excellence. So
I don't know if we're going to get any answers on this one, David, so maybe we should, talk about it for a minute. But the first thing I would prioritize is I would look at the governance, and then the second thing I would do is to create, oh good, we're getting some answers. There we go. I think I like this, create an easy to use intake form.
Yeah, Mike, I was just going to say it does take a little bit longer to think out this one over the previous scenario. So Sergio saying centralize the governance structure, consolidate the initiatives. That's great. Really focusing on the business outcomes, thinking about how each of our different functions can support. But by consolidating that governance structure and how we're utilizing AI and where we're investing our time, energy, and focus, I think that's great input, Sergio. John, thank you. As Mike mentioned, create an easy to use intake form. The set apart organizational rules with leadership support to stop teams from building unapproved tools. That certainly happens. And then the third idea from John, provide pre-approved, ready-made AI toolkits so departments can safely solve their own needs without starting from scratch. Those are some great examples. And I like that some of those examples, John, are more advanced than others. So like everybody can start with some AI toolkits and start to create those no matter what phase they're in. But they can certainly adapt it to their organizational readiness but allow people to get that advanced start. I hate to use the word because I think it's an outdated terminology, but prompting, knowing what prompts you can do to solve some of these things and figure things out. But just explaining to people through these toolkits how they can use AI to rather than start from scratch. Okay. We have another poll. I think this is our final poll. Based on the last two conversations that we just had, the last two slides, what is your top AI priority over the next 12 months? Are you looking to prove out your ROI through your targeted pilots, strengthen data and governance, or is it driving enterprise-wide transformation? You can go ahead and submit your answer. And then, of course, if you want additional support, please let us know. We're happy to help you, help walk you through some best practices, show you some organizations that have really put these into practice already. Okay, kind of split, which I like. And I'm sure that these priorities, typically they align back to the other poll questions that we had based on your organizational phase and your readiness. So all solid answers. So we'll close with some takeaways, but utilizing that same chat box, if you have any questions, of course, let us know. And I'll cover some takeaways here. Of course, AI success starts with readiness, not the technology. A lot of people rush to the technology as the solution. Technology only enables the solution. So think of AI not just as a technology platform, but a process that you go through within your organization. Phase 3 is the tipping point where most organizations really start to see consistent and operational impact within their organization. So if you're still in phase 1, phase 2, start setting phase 3 as your goal and get there over time. And of course, don't try to skip to 4 and 5 because those are very advanced. Make sure you successfully implement phase 3 before you even set goals for 5. Data quality and governance, absolutely the non-negotiable that you have to be thinking about within your organization. The most successful organizations, they start small, they prove measurable value, and then scale it intentionally. And finally, of course, AI plus human intelligence is the winning model that we're looking for. AI becomes the scaling engine for organizations where human provides context, judgment, ethics, leadership, as well as the strategic direction. And the organizations that succeed will be the ones that combine both effectively.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Please let us know any questions that you might have. There is an exit survey when you leave here. So if you didn't get any of your questions answered, please drop them in there and we'll get back to you on a one-to-one basis. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.